All right, let's talk Detroit Lions. We are getting closer and closer to week one of the 2025 NFL season. Football is almost finally back. And folks, there's been some recent massive news across the National Football League that I think is phenomenal news for Detroit. I'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the big news over the past couple days in the National Football League is the Green Bay Packers trading for former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Micah Parsons. Obviously, everyone has been talking about a lot of rave reviews for the Green Bay Packers, but Lions fans, this is a great sign for you guys. This is a message from your rival, from the NFC North, from the NFC at large, that the contenders in the NFC are absolutely terrified of Detroit. They are mortgaging their future. The Green Bay Packers sent their next 2 first-round picks and doled out a lot of cash to acquire Micah Parsons. It's because they are terrified of the Lions right now, guys. Right now, a lot of people in the media are saying Lions down 2 their defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, moved on head coaching gigs, didn't look so good in the preseason. Right now, it's very clear. People will tell you what they really feel with their actions. The Green Bay Packers, despite making the playoffs the last 2 seasons, they still felt like they were well short of Detroit and felt like this was their best chance to maybe, just maybe overcome them this season, and they've mortgaged their entire future to do so. I think it's a great sign for Detroit. Let's get into the news and get into some of the data right here, talking about this move and why it's good for the Lions. So this first report here is just the headline from Adam Schefter talking about the trade, saying the Cowboys are trading 3-time All-Pro linebacker Micah Packers, he means Parsons, to the Green Bay Packers. Parsons and the Packers have already reached an agreement on a 4-year, $188 million contract. Includes $120 million fully guaranteed at signing and makes Parsons the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. You talk about mortgaging your future, guys, this is what we're talking about, right? We look at the full trade here. The Cowboys get defensive tackle Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. And just to go back to the previous image, we're talking $108 million over 4 years, $47 million per year. That is a lot of money, a huge amount. You're talking about basically a lot of future free agents for Green Bay, their top 2 first-round picks. The Packers have said, listen, we either can beat Detroit this year with Parsons or we never will. The Lions are just that much better than us. That's what this move says, guys. Teams that are confident don't make these moves. Teams that feel like they can win with the roster they have don't trade away multiple first-round picks and dole out $50 million annualized to try and make their team better. The Packers weren't confident. They clearly came into the regular season just a few days ago and like, we don't stand a chance. The Lions are better, right? And I would agree with them, and I still think this move puts the Lions are still ahead of them, and it just shows how desperate the opposition is. We've seen other teams make aggressive moves. The Chicago Bears signed a lot of veterans, and look, I think a lot of that was good for Chicago, if we're being totally honest, but it clearly wasn't a reaction to the Detroit Lions. And look, if people are reacting to you, that's usually a good sign. So let's pull up more information on this deal here. This is the annualized per year of the top edge players. Again, this Aiden Hutchinson, he's got a big deal coming. He's not on this list yet. He soon will be. But this was before the Parsons deal. And you can see TJ Watt was number 1, $41 million. Then Garrett with 40, Daniel Hunter with 35.6, Max Crosby with 35.5, then Bosa with 34, Hendrickson 29, and Josh Hines-Allen, Brian Burns, and Montez Sweat for the Chicago Bears, bringing up the rest of the list right there. And again, this is pre Micah Parsons getting his massive deal. This is what it looks like now in a graphic form, in a bar chart. And you can see Parsons on the left there. See how much he jumps out ahead. This is the Green Bay Packers going all in. They're like, listen, we're willing to pay all this money. Like, this is a huge amount of money. Look at that delta between TJ Watt and Garrett right there, just right next to Parsons. Micah Parsons is a good player, really good player. Is he better than Garrett? Is he better than TJ Watt? I would bet probably not, but he's at least in the conversation, right? But is he 15% over market value better? Absolutely not. This was a gross overpay. Forget the trade in Kenny Clark. Just on a pure cap basis, this was a massive overpayment by the Green Bay Packers. What's the only time you overpay? When you're desperate. You see this in the business world all the time. A company's behind the times, right? Where AI is taking over the world right now in terms of what companies are trying to do. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO, runs Meta, Facebook, right? He sits there, he's like, I'm behind the times. So what does he do? He starts spending hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars just to hire people and buy companies just because he's so far behind. He got desperate, right? And he's doling out tens of billions of dollars to buy companies, a lot of money to hire people because he's desperate. He's behind the times. Desperate teams, desperate people, desperate businesses spend a lot of money because they're behind. The Packers were and are behind the Detroit Lions, guys. This data really supports it. I think Jordan Schultz has a really good report here highlighting exactly just to put a nice bow on everything I've been saying here. He posted, to my knowledge, no team in NFL history has spent over $100 million on 2 players until now. With Jordan Love and Micah Parsons, the Packers do just that. Listen, paying a lot of money to the quarterback position, that's common. Everyone does it, right? Lions do it. Everybody does it, as you should if you have a good quarterback. And if we're being honest, Jordan Love's a good quarterback. But to dole out over $100 million, we're talking well over 30%. We're talking like 38% of your salary cap on 2 players. That is a really risky move. It's a very desperate move. It's a move made out of pure, unadulterated fear. The Green Bay Packers finished up the preseason. They looked at the Detroit Lions and all of the connotations in the media that, oh, the Lions, they're not as good as, the years past. They're going to take a step back, right? Oh, their coordinators are gone. They didn't look good in the preseason. And the Green Bay Packers looked at the situation and said, yeah, they're still pretty good, right? In fact, the Lions are still better than we are. We've got to make a massive move. We've got to bet our entire future. We got to throw away 2026, throw away 2027. Remember, first-round picks are cheap. Moving off to first-round picks means you're going to have a lot of salary cap problems in the future. The Green Bay Packers just said, screw the future. We're going to suck in 2028, 2029, probably 2027. We got a 1 to 2 year window that maybe we have a chance to beat Detroit, and they went desperate. Teams that go desperate lose, right? And this is exactly what the Detroit Lions have forced to happen here for the Green Bay Packers. This latest move, it's been rocking the airwaves, but the Lions fans, you shouldn't be disappointed. Now, granted, you have to play Parsons. He's a good player. That's fair. But if this is an indication, I think pretty obvious one, that the Detroit Lions are still pretty clearly the number 1 team in the NFC North, and for my money, the best team in the NFC. All right, we'll get into more details with this in just 1 second, but first, Lions fans, in the comment section below, now that the regular season is right around the corner, give us your prediction. You're getting on record right now what you think the Detroit Lions win-loss total will be for the 2025 season. Put it in the comment section below. Just the regular season. Don't have to get any postseason predictions or anything like that. Just give us the regular season record for the Detroit Lions in the comment section below. And while you're down there in the comment section below, make sure you go to the description box to sign up for our weekly newsletter, courtesy of the Substack platform. 100% free. It's just extra information, get you through the season. Good stuff there. Make sure you check it out. Again, 100% free. Link in the description box below. All right, but back to this move here for the Green Bay Packers and what it means for the Detroit Lions. Teams that are desperate, and we've seen this in a lot of teams over the past few years in the AFC with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? You look at a lot of teams trying to overcome the Chiefs, and they will dole out huge amounts of money. The Broncos did it with Russell Wilson, extremely desperate. They gave Russell Wilson a huge amount of money, and they traded a lot to get him. They couldn't overcome him. They had to reset the franchise. It took them a few years, and they're now back to being okay, right? They mortgaged 3 years of their franchise to try and overcome Kansas City. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. Desperate moves don't yield results. The Los Angeles Chargers a few years ago had a similar track to trying to overcome the Kansas City Chiefs. They couldn't do it, right? We've seen the Buffalo Bills. They went very veteran heavy a couple years ago to overcome and win the AFC. They couldn't do it. Now we're seeing a reset, right? Fortunately for the Bills, they have Josh Allen in a very easy division, but they're kind of, in terms of talent-wise, not nearly as good as they were a couple years ago. They failed to overcome the Kansas City Chiefs. They mortgaged a few years to the future. Now they got to figure things out. The Miami Dolphins, very similar. They thought they had a chance to go all in. They mortgaged their entire future. Now they're in a salary cap disaster, and they've got a bunch of young guys getting their first opportunities. It's going to be an interesting year for Miami. Teams that mortgage their future trying to overcome a specific opponent fail 90% of the time. Maybe the Packers are the exception, guys. Maybe it works out for them. I'm willing to bet not, because past, in this case, is often prologue. And when you bet so heavily against your future, you usually lose. Debt in any sort of business instrument, whether it's personal or if you're managing charity or business or whatever it is, if you use a debt instrument, that's a risk. And the more debt you have, the higher leverage you have. That means when things go south a little bit, things can fall apart. And the Green Bay Packers took on a lot of debt and a lot of leverage here. But let's not talk about the Packers too much here. Let's look at the Detroit Lions. And this is the part that's really insightful. Let me pull up this last graphic for you here. This is the cap space that's currently available for teams for the 2025 season right now, as we currently sit, right? So this would potentially roll over into next offseason. Theoretically, teams could make more moves, but this is where it sits today. So the Patriots are number 1 with $52 million. Makes sense. Rebuilding. Cowboys are number 2 with $41 million. Makes sense. Trading Parsons, kind of rebuilding. The Lions are number 3. The Lions just have the best record in the NFC. They're stacked with talent across the board. They have the 3rd most cap space, right? This is exactly how you win consistently in the NFL, guys. This is how you do it, right? You look at the Green Bay Packers, sacrificed all their cap space, future first-round picks, just to try and overcome a Detroit team that's already better than they are. The Lions, they just sit there and say, hey, listen, we got all this cap space. We don't have to do anything aggressive. We're a good team. We're already better than you. We've got draft capital. We've got a lot of dollars. We have a lot of flexibility. In fact, if you look at the Lions situation, they're well ahead of the Raiders in a rebuild. I think the 49ers are a little bit of a rebuild. They had to let a lot of veterans go. Seahawks, a lot of veterans go. Cardinals still trying to work things out with their new coaching staff that they brought in last offseason. So again, or I think 2 offseasons ago, excuse me. So we don't really know how good the Cardinals are. They're kind of in between rebuild or contender. It's kind of up in the air. So again, the Lions are much better than every team on this list. Much, much better. And they have more cap space than all but 2 teams. What does that tell you? It means they haven't mortgaged their future, guys. They haven't took on unnecessary debt. They've got a lot of assets on their balance sheet, if you want to stick with the business analogies here. The Green Bay Packers, the competition, the Chicago Bears, good example, they don't have very many assets on their balance sheet. A lot of the NFC teams, a lot of top contenders, the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously won a Super Bowl last year. They avoid your dollars from hell coming down the corner in a couple of years, right? They went all in and they won a Super Bowl and it worked out for them, right? They're the 1 in 10 team that gets it done. We'll see what happens with Green Bay, right? The Eagles have been the exception, not the norm, right? You look at the rest of the contenders in the NFC right now, the teams with good talent, both sides of the football, with experience. Detroit is the only one that has a great opportunity for the future as well. The only one. And when you have this ability to strike fear in your opposition, like Detroit has, like Green Bay then succumbed to, you lead to perennial success. The Patriots were able to do it during this dynasty, right? If you go back to bring up the Cowboys, we're talking Cowboys today, during their early 90s, mid-90s dynasties, a lot of the opposition made a lot of aggressive hirings and deals to try and overcome Dallas. They made a lot of mistakes. Allowed Dallas to probably actually get another ring at the end of the dynasty in 1995 when probably they were a declining team in a lot of ways. Why? Because a few other contending teams made a lot of aggressive moves that hurt them, kept Dallas really at the top of the NFC. So we look at the Detroit Lions in that same kind of boat here. They've got flexibility. Now, look, they've got some decisions to make, right? Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson's contract coming around the corner, of course. But the reality is, when you're the best team and you force other teams into desperate moves, you make a mistake. The best companies force their opposition to make desperate moves, and the opposition, bad times, bad economy, they go under. The better company wins. The best team wins. We see that time and time again. When did the Chiefs make a desperate move, guys? When do the best teams in football make desperate moves? It just doesn't happen. And that's the big takeaway here. Now, look, obviously this could work out for the Green Bay Packers. Maybe they do great. Maybe, again, they're like Philly last year. They prove the exception to the rule. Maybe they make a run at it. We'll have to see. But when you're the team that's forcing other teams to make desperate moves, that's where you want to be. When you strike fear into the opposition, even when everyone in the media is saying, oh, coordinators are gone, it's going to be a different era, Lions falling off, like a lot of people they're one of the favorites to not want to say favorites, but like one of the teams that made the playoffs last year that a lot of people are betting to miss the playoffs. Absolutely stupid, right? I think a lot of people, they get caught up in sort of the short-termism, right? Detroit Lions devastated by injuries, they lose in the divisional game, lose both their coordinators, they look bad in the preseason, and everyone's like, oh, they stink now, right? They're not. They're going to be good. They're the best team in that division, right? They're making the playoffs, barring something completely surprising, in my opinion, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys agree. And clearly, you know who else agrees? The Green Bay Packers. When you force teams to make desperate moves, that's a good sign. I think the Detroit Lions are clearly the force in the NFC North, in the NFC, and one of the forces in the entire National Football League.